jump off the cliff, you know? Can't be scared to jump off the cliff, so that's what I achieved. By the end of that race, I was exhausted, so that means that I did what I set out to do.
How do you feel like that last 100?
Last 50, I was fighting. I was swimming a little, but.
How do you feel about the overall result?
Overall result, that's in my top 3 fastest 300 times, so pleased with it. Of course, I didn't want to lose, but
nobody does.
Exactly. I ain't come here to lose, but if you beat me, that means that you champion. That means that you put in your real heart, and that's exactly what this year's supposed to be.
The 2026 track and field season is already doing things that nobody saw coming. No Olympics, no World Championships, and yet the times being run right now are some of the fastest seen in years. There has already been a 9.82 from Oblique Seville. The men's 200 has been broken multiple times at 19.6, and Noah Lyles dropped a world record in the 150 meters at 14.67 at a Strava event in Ostrava. The season has barely started, and it already feels like something special is building. 42 men have already run under 10 seconds this year, with more than 2 months of competition still to go. That is the deepest the event has ever been at this point in a season. But now it's time to talk about the race that has the entire sprint world locked in, the men's 100-meter dash at the Paris Diamond League. And the reason this race had everyone talking comes down to 2 names, Noah Lyles and Trayvon Bromell. Before getting into what was about to happen in Paris, it helps to understand what Noah Lyles had already built at this venue, because this man does not lose in Paris. Not in the 100, not ever. Going back to 2019, when Lyles first showed up here, he won the 200 meters in a meeting record of 19.65, closing that race into a headwind. Then, in 2023, he came back to the Paris Diamond League and took down Ferdinand Omanyala in the 100 with a 9.97, also running into a slight headwind. And then there was 2024, the Paris Olympic Games, the biggest stage in the world. Lyles against Kashane Thompson in one of the most insane finishes in Olympic history. Lyles won in 9.79. The margin of victory was 0.005 seconds. It took the timing equipment several minutes just to separate the 2 athletes. Lyles closed his final 40 meters faster than he ever had in his life that night. That is what Paris does to this man.
Gotten to a point where I'm now recognized definitely throughout the world, and now very much in the U.S. Times don't mean anything to them. To the regular watcher, the casual viewer, times don't mean anything.
He finds another gear here that he doesn't always find anywhere else. Coming into this Paris Diamond League race in 2026, Lyles was running like a man completely locked in, undefeated in the 100, undefeated in the 200, and that 150-meter world record he dropped in Ostrava with a time of 14.67 wasn't even a full effort. His final 100 of that race was clocked at 8.85. That number alone tells you everything about where his fitness sat heading into Paris. Some were already projecting his fitness could put him in range of 9.79 again, and looking at the numbers, that wasn't hard to believe. The field around him was genuinely stacked too. Jordan Anthony, the 2026 World Indoor 60-meter champion. Marcel Jacobs, the 2021 Olympic champion, finally breaking 10 seconds again this year at the Rome Diamond League, his first sub-10 since 2024. Ferdinand Omanyala, dangerous as always. Akani Simbine, continuing his streak of sub-10 performances. These are all serious names, but none of them were the main story of this race. The main story was Trayvon Bromell, and if you followed sprinting for any amount of time, you already know this man is different. Think about what Bromell has been through. The injuries, the years of rehab, the comebacks. Most athletes go through a fraction of what he's dealt with and never make it back to the top level. There is a real argument going around that if Bromell had stayed healthy through his prime years, he would have dominated the 100 meters outright, and that kids who run 10.0 at under 20 years old are supposed to grow into adults who run 9.7. Bromell just keeps showing up and keeps running under 10 seconds like it's the most natural thing in the world. At the Lone Star Grand Prix, a few weeks before Paris, Bromell ran 9.85 and won. There was a slight tailwind in that race, but the field he beat included Oblique Seville, last year's world champion. After the race, Bromell said he felt sluggish and didn't transition well out of his opening phase. He wasn't happy with that run, and he still won. That's the part that should make everyone pay attention.
It felt good to get out here and actually have fun.
It's a big improvement from your season best, your previous season best. What you were expecting this?
My big expectation was just come out and win. Because at the end of the day, times are times, but you got to be able to run against a good field.
What's next?
If Bromell ran to his ceiling in Paris, you were looking at something in the range of 9.84 to 9.86, fast enough to beat almost anyone on the planet on any given day. The matchup between Lyles and Bromell came down to one very specific part of the race, the first 60 meters. Bromell has always been elite in his opening phase. His 60-meter personal best sits at 6.47, and his start has been one of the most explosive in the sport for years. Lyles, on the other hand, has spent years developing and improving that exact phase of his race. At the 2023 Boston Indoor Grand Prix, he ran 6.51 and lost to Bromell. Then at the 2024 Boston Indoor Grand Prix, he came back and ran 6.44, beating a field that included Jacobs, Ronnie Baker, and Fred Kerley. That Boston performance directly predicted his Olympic gold later that year. The pattern is clear. When Noah's start is working, the race is almost always his. But the honest truth, the one that keeps coming up no matter who you ask, is that Lyles simply does not have a great start and probably never will. It is not a one-off problem. It has followed him for years, through the 2024 Olympic final, through last year's World Championship final, through nearly every big race people can remember. For Paris, the number suggested that if he could get through the opening 60, somewhere between 6.43 and 6.44, his best window, he'd give himself a legitimate shot at breaking 9.80. To do that, he'd need to cover the final 40 meters in under 3.37 seconds. He'd done it before, in Paris, on this exact track. The only realistic scenario where Lyles doesn't win this race is if Bromell builds enough of a gap in those first 60 meters that Lyles' closing speed cannot erase it. So who wins? What time goes down? Can anyone on this planet finally beat Noah Lyles in Paris? When the gun fired, Jacobs got a good start. Jordan Anthony was absolutely flying and had the race at the moment Jacobs was trying to get there. But here comes Lyles, charging the way he always does in this final third. And for a moment in those closing meters, it looked like the natural order was about to reassert itself again. It didn't. Bromell held his form. He didn't panic. He didn't tighten up. He drove through the line with the composure of someone who had prepared for exactly this, for Lyles to come, and for the question of whether to respond or just run. Bromell just ran, and right at the line, he glanced over at Lyles, a small moment that said as much as the clock did. The result? 9.91 for Bromell, 9.92 for Lyles, 1/100th of a second. The slimmest margin the results sheet can show without a photo finish deciding it. But the margin wasn't even the most surprising part of this race. 4 men ran under 9.98 seconds in Paris that night. Let that settle for a moment. Bromell's 9.91 wins it. Lyles' 9.92 loses it. Jacobs crosses in 9.96, a season's best. Simbine finishes 4th in 9.97, also a season's best. Jordan Anthony rounds out the top 5 in 9.99. This wasn't a race where one man ran fast and everyone else filled in around him. This was a full field operating near the top of what the event allows on the same night in next to no wind. 4 men sub 9.98 in a single race is not a routine Diamond League evening. It's a statement about the depth of the men's 100 in 2026, and it lines up with that broader 42 men under 10 number for the season. The names below the top 2 or 3 are real now, and they are closing in. After the race, Bromell put it plainly. He called Lyles a great competitor, a fighter, a champion, and said that coming out and keeping his composure shows his perseverance is strong, and that he can compete with anybody. That is not someone talking about getting lucky. That is someone who knew the test was coming and had already decided how he was going to pass it. Lyles, for his part, was direct about his own side of it afterward. The feeling at the start wasn't what he expected. One sentence that explains a great deal, because a 100-meter race doesn't give you a chance to reset.
There's no second half comeback in the traditional sense. There's only how much ground you can recover in the final third and whether your legs have enough left to do it. His legs almost did. Not everyone is convinced this changes anything long-term, and that's worth saying plainly. There's a running argument that Bromell does this every year on the circuit and then quietly disappears once Worlds or the Olympics actually arrive, that the injuries are the real story of his career and not a switch that's been permanently flipped. There's no second half comeback in the traditional sense. There's only how much ground you can recover in the final third, and whether your legs have enough left to do it. His legs almost did. Not everyone is convinced this changes anything long-term, and that's worth saying plainly. There's a running argument that Bromell does this every year on the circuit and then quietly disappears once Worlds or the Olympics actually arrive, that the injuries are the real story of his career and not a switch that's been permanently flipped.